So Sarah Davis Baker recently made a video about the cultural significance of doppelgangers, and I've been thinking now about doppelgangers in music. I'm aware that this video may reach a wider audience, so I'll do my best to explain some of the technical stuff. I promise I won't get too much. So Sarah Davis Baker points out in her video that each and every one of us has a doppelganger. For instance, a digital doppelganger, that version of ourselves that we put online. The point being that who we are is sort of dependent on context. Listen to this passage in Beethoven's Eroica Symphony. Now listen again, but I'm going to play a little bit of what came before. Do you hear that? When you listened the first time, did you hear that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4? But when I gave you what came before, suddenly it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the rhythm is so unbalanced on purpose because he's essentially inserting something from another time signature, the way we count the music, into the 1, 2, 3. It's a musical doppelganger, defined by its sameness but lack of belonging in its environment. Even one note can differ depending on context. Famous example, Vivaldi's Summer. No, not that part of Summer. This part of Summer from the first movement, where the farmer contemplates his fate. Now, when a note is different depending on context, it can be spelled differently. So for example, E flat is the same thing as D sharp in theory, but also in theory it's different. It's called enharmonic, and I'll show you. Now to explain what's going on here, I'm going to have to tell you what a suspension is. Now, for those of you who have studied counterpoint, I know this might bring back some nightmares, but it's not so hard. So in a suspension, you have two notes. These two notes are going to begin in consonants, so it doesn't need resolution, right? Then what happens next is one of the notes changes to another note, and this causes a dissonance because of the interval between the two notes. Because of this dissonance, one of the notes, or sometimes two, both of the notes, need to resolve. They need to reach an acceptable consonance that is recognized as a resolution to this particular dissonance. Now here what we're seeing is a very special case of suspension because the interval between a C and an E flat is a consonance, but functionally D sharp and C, that's a dissonance that needs to be resolved. So remember I said E flat and D sharp are to the ear the same note, but when the E flat changes to a D sharp, the C is forced to go down. It's a musical doppelganger. But basically, a note's name is dependent on its function. These are oral doppelgangers. One really good example is Clara Schumann's Notturno, and I'll highlight all of the enharmonics, the musical doppelgangers, of single notes that sound the same but are different in context in just the first few measures. Sarah Davis Baker also points out that sometimes the musical doppelganger is less monstrous than the original. Think of, spoiler alert for The Southern Reach, the biologist from Annihilation who transforms into a monster, but whose doppelganger from Area X is relatively human. A musical example of this would be a violin concerto in E minor by Vivaldi, RV 279, from La Stravaganza. And in it, the beginning of the third movement sounds like this. But in the end, he slices it up, makes it concise, and avoids some of the chaos that happened in the beginning. A more civil doppelganger. And once you start looking, the doppelgangers are everywhere in music. I mean, all these forms, sonata form, ritornello form, theme and variations form, cyclic form, fugues, canons, passacaglias, and so on. All of these involve repetition, and repetition that isn't the same as before, repetition that mutates. It's a biological aspect of music that we're obsessed with. In classical music, the taking of an idea and morphing it into something else, development, is considered one of the highest forms of art in music. And it's for a good reason. Listen to Chopin's C minor nocturne from Opus 48 and see how in the beginning it's mournful and plaintive and passive. But then the monstrous mutation near the end. So obsessed with the musical doppelgangers? What does that say about us? Spoilers for Everything Everywhere All at Once up ahead. It's like in Everything Everywhere All at Once, when Evelyn sees every version of her life.
你在哭吗？我看到我的生活，如果没有你是多么的美好。It was beautiful. 当年我应该听我爸说的话，我要跟你走。Raymond。
And it turns out that so has her daughter. She's also experienced every possible way her life has gone, and it's led her to a self-destructive, nihilistic path. And the question becomes, should Evelyn join her? Should they destroy themselves? What's the point of living a life when there is a more beautiful variation out there?
Nothing matters.
No, Joy. You don't believe that?
Feels nice, doesn't it? If nothing matters, then all the pain and guilt you feel for making nothing of your life goes away.
Now that you've felt it, what it's like to be there, we're afraid of doppelgängers, of variations on our lives. We're afraid because they embody our abandoned ambitions, our worst decisions, and the lives we left behind. Musical doppelgängers show us the way that an idea could be, what one note can mean. In music, in many forms, it's asked that we return. We return to the original form of an idea. We go home, even after we saw all the better and worse outcomes. Evelyn chooses her own world. Joy asks, why? There's a prevalent idea in humanity that that other world is not us. We approach them with a certain lack of comfort, even if they're better, in theory. Maybe, as Sarah Davis Baker says, the doppelganger isn't so evil. We just have to learn with it. We don't have to be it. We don't have to fear it. It can be our art.
das Haus auf demselben Platz. Da steht auch ein Mensch und starrt in die Höhe und ringt die Hände vor Schmerzensgewalt. Graust es, wenn ich sein Antlitz sehe. Der Mond zeigt mir meine eigene Gestalt. Du Doppelgänger, du bleicher Geselle, was äffst du nach mein Liebesleid, das mich gequält auf dieser Stelle?